8.6, equivalent fractions, decimals and percentages. There are certain useful fractions and decimals we should know without having to do any working out. These are the ones worth learning if you don't already know. The first one is a half. So a half we should know and be more than familiar with that it's 0.5 as a decimal. And if you scored 1 out of 2 in a test, you would know as well that you achieved 50%. A quarter, which is half of a half. So a half of 0.5 is 0.25. Again, you should be very familiar with this. And a quarter is 25%. An eighth, well, an eighth, if we're not too sure about it, 1/8 is half of a quarter. We could think back to our picture diagrams for these. So there was a whole. We're splitting that into 2 halves. If we divide the half into 2, we're left with a quarter. So this is a half, and this is a quarter. If we divide the quarter by 2 in half, what we've got is this would be an eighth, and the other part would be an eighth. Now we could divide that in 2 to get a 16th and a 32nd and so on. So if we divide the decimal value of a quarter by 2, we get 0.125, which is 12.5%. So that's useful to know. 1/5. We know 1/5 is equivalent to 2/10, so as a decimal it's 0.2, and as a percentage it's 20%. A tenth is 0.1, which is 10%. And a third we should be familiar with as well, so that's 0.33333. Now what I would like to do is change this to 0.3 recurring. So we put the dot above the first digit that repeats. So it should be 0.3 with the dot above it, and that means 0.3333 and so on. You may have been taught 0.3R or 0.33R or something like that, but to be technical, we put the dot above the first repeating digit, and so we don't need it as 0.33 dot. But anyway, that's what that is as a decimal, and as a percentage it's 33 1/3. From some of these then we should be able to work out others as well. So from a tenth we should be able to work out everything from 1/10 up to 9/10. It's not a difficult extension to that. It's going to be from 10% up to 90%. Similarly with a fifth, we should be able to work out 2/5 as well, up to 4/5. With a third, we should be able to also work out 2/3. So it would be 0.6 recurring and 66 2/3%. We should also be able to work out what 3/8. We don't need to consider 2/8 because 2/8 would simplify to a quarter. We don't need 4/8 because that would simplify to a half. 6/8 would simplify to 3/4, and that's something that we should know with the 1/4. So we should also be able to work out 3/8, 5/8, and 7/8, and that would be multiplying 0.125 or 12.5% by 3, 5, or 7.